today's topic, well, let's say that it's about the perception people in America or the USA have about football, or as they call it, soccer, and really why they have, where does it stem from? Exactly why do they have these ideas about football, and and just kind of what's the culture in sports in general in America or the USA, right? So yeah, originally I made something related to this topic, but I was kind of more curious about other aspects of the sports beside the physicality of it, but also the financial and also the well-being of the athletes, and also just how long can they actually have a career, and based on just the kind of sports that are popular in the United States and also they are becoming more popular in the USA. One of the things that I've heard a lot during the World Cup 2022 in Qatar, people took in social media and wanted to give their opinions about football or soccer as they call it here in the USA. And interesting thing that people would say, in general, these are people who are not even fans of the sports. They had this perception that football is for wimps. And one of the, I guess, more famous people in sports that had their opinion aligned to this is Dana White, who's president of the UFC. Of course, he's the president of UFC. I think that he has some sort of agenda behind it, but he was in a press conference or something in public, and they asked him about the World Cup, and he just said a statement about, he said, I try to watch it, but that sport's for, so I had to leave that out, but he just says it's for wimps, it's not a real sport or something like that. I don't really care about Dana White. I think I understand the kind of person he is, and he likes to have this sort of controversial things going on around him because he kind of thrives on that, and also just keeps the eyes on him and on the sport of UFC, being that he is kind of the face of UFC and the president, and kind of everyone associates in a way to UFC. So I think those comments that he said, like I said, I think it just stems from being part of the UFC, that he watches such a violent sports on a weekly basis and probably on a daily basis too. So I think it's a very ignorant statement to make. I think other people have said the same thing. They are not famous, but they're just people who kind of wanted to say, oh yeah, I tried watching football, but it's just they keep throwing themselves on the floor every 5 minutes, every 1 minute. But I think it's kind of nonsense. Again, these people don't even play the sports. They never even kick the ball. It's kind of like a lot of journalists, right? They become sports journalists. They don't even play a sport. Let's say not even football. They may not even play basketball. But now they have some sort of, they got a degree and now they're journalists and, well, I'm gonna just do sports, and then they don't even know how to play the sports, like I said, they probably don't even know how to shoot a basketball, yet they're journalists for that sport itself. So I think generally this idea in the United States comes from the fact that the most popular sports in the United States are very physical and very aggressive. For example, one of the biggest sports in the United States used to be baseball, but baseball kind of lost its popularity. So I think what's taking over right now it's NFL. So they call it football, but for the sake of the video, we'll say American football, because I call football the soccer, right? What they call soccer here in the United States, I call football. What they call football here, I would just normally kind of just say it's American football. But American football is a very physical sport. If you don't know by now, basically consists of tackling the opposing player who has the ball, and basically there is some tactics to it. Of course, I'm not here to say this is a stupid sport or it's a sport for wimps or people who are dumb. No, there are tactics to it. Every sport requires tactics. Every sport requires talent, requires a lot of physicality and athleticism, I would say. So I don't think, it's not a sport for me. I didn't grow up in a household where we watch American football on a weekly basis. Unlike most American people here, they have grown in that household where their parents would take them to American football teams and play as a young kid. For me, it was the opposite. I grew up in a, not South America, but Central American household. And, my father, he was always watching football on the weekends. So I kind of just saw it from a peripheral view, but I was never really engaged into football like that until later on in my life. And when I was 11 or 12 years old. So again, it's just something that you grow into. And if you like it, you just like it, and no one can really force you to do it. But for me, we were not really into American football, but it's sort of, as a spectator, I imagine that that's kind of what you want to see, that every play there's going to be a tackle or a touchdown, so you're either going to get tackled or score a point, right? So it's a different mindset. The spans of when there's actually something going on in American football, they're very short. I would say maybe 10 to 20 seconds when there's something actually going on. So that goes from the part that they give the ball to the quarterback, and then the quarterback has to throw the ball to a wide receiver or whatnot. So basically that's what the sport is structured in a way that when there is something going on, the action is kind of high intensity, right? Unlike football, it's more of it's a prolonged game, total of 90 minutes, but it's 2 halves of 45 minutes. And of course, it's not a sport meant to be played with so much aggression, I would say. There are parts of the world where aggression is kind of welcome, like in South America. If you ever compare European Cup to the Copa America, it's you'll see the difference of the mindset. That of course in South America it's more aggressive. Even if you look at the way that how the World Cup ended with Argentina versus France, it's obvious that they have a different playing style and mentality. If you look at the goalie for Argentina, he was very aggressive and verbally just trying to bully the French players, right? And it worked, but it's just different tactics and a different mindset. So I just think that if you're constantly on a weekly basis watching NFL or American football, yeah, that's your expectation. You want to see those moments of action and a lot of aggression, right? You want to see somebody get tackled or whatnot. And if they don't get tackled, you see somebody sprinting really fast. So it's not the fault of the players or the sport, let's say in football, right? I don't think that you can expect the same things because let's say I watch UFC and then I watch a basketball game. I'm not gonna say, oh, basketball is for wimps. They just get pushed, they fall on the floor, and then the ref gives them a shot or something like that. It's just different demand. It demands something different, and that's also what the fans expect. But when you're constantly surrounded by all these sports that are very physically aggressive, like football and UFC, because UFC is really big in America, the United States, I think that, yeah, once you watch football, your mind is not ready for long, prolonged games and matches where there's no stop on a clock, right? Once it starts ticking, it goes all the way to 45, and if the ref deems necessary to have extra time, then there will be extra time. However, when they say those kind of things, I don't think they really stepped into a real match. And I'm not saying a professional level match. I'm saying a match where just the people who are playing actually want to win the game. There's no prize at the end. It's just your honor and glory that you won, and you go home and you won and you did your best, and you just, everything's out of your system. And I think football is actually a very intense and aggressive sport, but it just doesn't seem that way. And unless you actually play the game itself, you also understand that there are other aspects to the sport besides kicking the ball. Like, you're constantly running, and sometimes you're running, you're sprinting, but there are moments when you have the ball, and those moments are pretty intense, right? You gotta think pretty quick, and you're not using part of your body that you're comfortable with using. My hands, I've used constantly my hands. I'm gonna be more comfortable having a basketball or football in my hands, but you gotta do it with your feet, and you gotta have coordination, and you gotta have strength, especially like if you're already playing for 40 minutes and now you're tired and they give you the ball. If you try to kick the ball hard, you're very fatigued. Your legs might already be weak at that time. So there's a lot of things to consider, because once you already play it, like I said, even if you're minute 80, most players are already going to be worn out. if someone who's fresh comes in and pushes you, you're gonna fall to the floor. And it's not because you're a wimp, it's just because your body is giving up. And even though mentally you're not giving up, your body's just like, man, I'm tired. And that's just something you cannot control. A criticism about Conor McGregor is that he didn't have the stamina and he will wear out very quickly. And that's what happened when he fought Khabib, that Khabib basically just got him tired, and you saw how Khabib just destroyed him. So it's just different sports require something different from your body, right? If you put a football player to fight in a UFC match, perhaps he's not gonna be the most talented fighter, but I'm sure that he will be able to last easily those 5 rounds or 3 rounds, because they have the stamina. They might not have the talent to punch or whatnot, but it's the same thing. If you put an NFL player playing football, you might say, oh, they will just dominate because they're so fast and so strong, but they might be good for like 1 or 5 minutes, right? And after that, they don't have the stamina. Yeah, second half, you're not gonna be able to make it through. And I'm not trying to take jabs at other sports, right? The point is that it's different. You cannot criticize professional athletes, right? Professional athletes. Dana White's not a professional athlete. He's just a president. So I'm saying you cannot criticize professional athletes from the outside when you don't play the sport, and say that people who play that sport are wimps, that they're not talented. It doesn't take any talent to be in the field and kick a ball, because my daughter plays football and it doesn't take any talent. Most people in the United States put their kids to play football because they don't want them to play American football. They don't want to see their kids getting tackled and knocked to the floor. Or they might not want to see their kids going and fighting in a jiu-jitsu or whatever kind of kickboxing or boxing. They don't want to see their kids get beat up. They think, oh, I'm going to put my kid to play football or soccer. And it's just going to be less risk of them getting injuries. And at the same time, it might be true that there's less risk because most of the kids who are going there are going for the same reason, and they're not really interested in the sport. Maybe if you send your kid to play football in Mexico or in Brazil, there'll be more intensity compared to the people playing football in America. If you put the kids in the same age playing against each other, one from Brazil, one from United States, you're gonna see that they're gonna get bodied by people from Brazil because they just have a different mindset about the sports. This is basically, they're really passionate about it, but they also it's like a future for them that maybe I can become professional or whatnot. Here, most people who are playing football are not really interested in becoming professionals. They just want to do it as a pastime. So again, like I said, people who criticize it and don't even play the sport, it bothers me, not too much, but it just bothers me, and that's why I wanted to make a video. Because if you're not involved in the sport or actually do something, and then you just want to criticize it, it doesn't make any sense. To use a personal experience from me, I've never been skiing before, right? It looks easy when I see it on videos, like, oh, you just go from one side to the other and it's not that hard. And I actually went skiing 2 weeks ago with my wife, and I kind of was telling her the same thing, like, I don't think it's gonna be that hard. I have good balance, and she was telling me it's not that easy. I was like, oh, how hard can it be? You just gotta move and balance yourself. And when I actually, even on a flat surface, I put on the skis, it was extremely difficult I just wasn't even comfortable. Even wearing just the boots for skiing, it was very difficult, uncomfortable for me. Just the sensations overall was different. And once I was actually on top of the hill or the mountain and going down, I fell down. I can't even tell you how many times. I was kind of humbled by the sport, right? Because like I said beforehand, I thought it was easy. It's just about how you move your body, and it isn't simple. A lot of things are not as simple as they look, but because these professionals, these athletes are very good and skilled at what they do, they make it look easy. And I think that's the problem with football, that people just see that you're just running and kicking. It's not that simple. Even if you master just running and kicking and not being able to get tired, there are other aspects to the game. Okay, now you have the ball, you're not tired, you can kick really hard. Can you get through a defense? Can you get past a defense? Can you actually score? Those things require you to use your mind, to be creative, to do more than just kicking, like, you know, to dribble, to be able to stop, to have control with the ball, and have control with your feet, you know, without, you know, you can use your chest, your legs, your head, but, you know, control it and actually be able to get the ball in the net, because then you have to get it past somebody who can actually use their hands. So it's a lot of little details that I think it's not correct to just criticize a sport, like I said, as an outsider, and say, oh, it's easy, and especially someone like Dana White. But I think the reason he said that, it's because, like I said, he's the face of UFC, and he's gonna call any other sport like a sport for wimps. You know, he might even call people from NFL, oh, it's a wimp, you know, they just tackle each other and they just run. I'm pretty sure he can do the same thing about criticize any sport, even hockey, and say, oh no, like the real sport for men is fighters. And unfortunately, I think that there's a lot of issues with UFC and people who retire as fighters. It's another subject for a different video, but again, I think that he's not in a good position to criticize the sport because he doesn't play it, and also as a president of a sport where a lot of his athletes are underpaid and also retiring with injuries that, you know, they're not even taking care of their athletes. I think that he's not really in a position to criticize a sport where most athletes who are actually able to be professional are making decent money, and most of the athletes who are in the UFC are not really making that much. But that's pretty much it. I think that it's not fair for soccer players who are professional to be called wimps because someone doesn't know how to play a sport and just from the outside sees it and thinks. You guys can tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.